Lily Thompson wasn't looking for love. She worked double shifts just to pay the rent, and her dreams of going back to school felt more distant every day. So when her roommate begged her to take her place on a blind date, Lily sighed, slipped into the only decent dress she owned, and took a deep breath. She expected awkward conversation. She expected silence. She definitely didn't expect him. What began as a fake setup turned into something real, because she looked past the watch, the suit, the status, and saw the man behind the title. And more importantly, she saw the boy beside him and smiled at the guarded child who just wanted someone to notice him too. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. The restaurant was full that Friday evening, buzzing with quiet chatter, the clinking of silverware, and the warm hush of low-hanging lights. Outside, city lights shimmered against the wide glass windows, but inside it felt almost peaceful, intimate, like the kind of place where secrets could be shared over wine and dessert. Lucas Hale sat at a corner table near the window, his arm resting casually along the back of the chair beside him. He wore a simple dark gray sweater, no tie, no cufflinks, no obvious signs of wealth. That was the point. He didn't want to be recognized. Not tonight. Across from him, his 8-year-old son, Evan, leaned forward on his elbows, deeply focused on the paper menu in front of him, where he was sketching a dinosaur with a crayon. The child's blonde hair fell slightly into his eyes, and every so often, he'd glance up at his father for approval. Lucas watched him for a long moment. "Do you think she'll like you?" Evan asked suddenly without looking up. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "The woman. From the blind date," Evan said plainly, as if it were just another math problem. Lucas smiled faintly, unsure how to answer. "I don't know." Evan paused, turned the crayon between his fingers. "What if she only likes the idea of you, like the money and the name?" Lucas let out a soft sigh. That was exactly why they were here, why he'd brought Evan in the first place. No driver, no bodyguards, no $1 million watch, just a tired father, a quiet dinner, and a little boy with crayons. A test, not for her, for himself. At that same moment, across the lobby, Lily Thompson stood fidgeting near the hostess podium, tugging gently at the sleeve of her second-hand navy blue dress. It was clean and modest, and she'd paired it with scuffed ballet flats and a beige coat that was too thin for the weather. She didn't belong here. That much was clear from the way the hostess blinked at her before forcing a polite smile. Lily swallowed her nerves. "Hi, I think there's a reservation under—" She hesitated. She didn't even know the guy's name. Her roommate had handled it all. A blind date, a favor, nothing serious. The hostess glanced at her list, distracted by a call on her headset. "Ah yes, right this way." Lily followed, her heart pounding as she passed table after table. She had half a mind to turn around, to run back out into the cold. But then the hostess gestured toward a table by the window. "Here we are," she said. "He's already seated." Lily blinked. There was a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his dark hair slightly tousled, with a soft expression that looked almost amused. Beside him sat a child. A boy. Not exactly what she expected, but something about the boy's face, curious, open, made her forget her doubts. The man stood politely as she approached, and for a brief second, they simply looked at each other. No names, no explanations. "I hope I'm not too late," Lily said, smiling nervously. "Not at all," Lucas replied. "Please have a seat." She sat down across from him, trying not to look as unsure as she felt. Evan glanced up from his drawing and offered her a quiet hi. She leaned forward slightly. "Hi there. Is that a T-Rex?" His eyes lit up. "No, a Spinosaurus. See the sail on its back." Lucas watched the exchange in silence, something warm and unfamiliar tightening in his chest. She hadn't blinked at the child, hadn't asked why a kid was here, hadn't looked around for someone richer, older, more impressive. She just smiled, like this was normal, like he was normal. And for a man who'd spent years being measured by boardrooms, bank accounts, and headlines, Lily Thompson was the first person in a very long time who didn't seem to be measuring him at all. The waiter arrived, pouring water and handing over menus. Lily thanked him softly, glancing down to avoid the man's eyes too long. Lucas, in turn, studied her when she wasn't looking. There was something disarming about the way she held herself, modest, calm, but with a kind of quiet resilience in her posture. Like she'd been through things, but chose not to wear them like armor. She picked up the menu and bit her lip. "This place is fancier than I expected." Lucas gave a slight chuckle. "Yeah, bit much for a first date, isn't it?" "I was told it would be low-key," she said with a small laugh, still not realizing she was talking to the wrong man. Lucas smiled into his glass. "So was I." Evan held up his drawing. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Lily leaned forward and examined it carefully, eyes widening with admiration. "This is incredible. Did you draw this all by yourself?" He nodded proudly. Lucas watched them, saying nothing. He had brought Evan tonight to observe, to listen. He hadn't expected the boy to engage. But somehow, Evan was talking more to this woman than he had to most adults in weeks. "Do you draw too?" Evan asked, hopeful. Lily looked slightly embarrassed. "I used to, when I was your age probably. But now, I don't really have time." Evan tilted his head. "Why not?" Lily hesitated. "Because grown-ups have bills, and jobs, and not enough hours in the day." Lucas was struck by the honesty. Not rehearsed, not performative. Just truth. She turned to him. "And what about you? What do you do?" He paused. This was the moment where women usually leaned in closer, changed their tone, adjusted their earrings. "Finance," he said flatly. "Mostly numbers and meetings. Boring stuff." She didn't flinch. "Must be hard," she said thoughtfully. "Balancing all that and being a dad." Lucas blinked. Not what do you earn, not what do you drive, not even where do you live. Just, is it hard? "Sometimes," he admitted. Their eyes met again. For a second, Lily felt the silence stretch between them, neither uncomfortable nor tense. Just full. She hadn't meant to end up here. She hadn't meant to sit at this table, speak to this man, or meet this child. But now, sitting across from both of them, she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this at ease with strangers. Lucas, meanwhile, felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. A question. What if this mistake was exactly what he'd been looking for all along? Their waiter glided back with a breadbasket and a practiced smile. Lily thanked him, took a slice, and handed the other to Evan as naturally as if she'd known the boy for years. Lucas noted the way she made a tiny joke, something about official bread-tasting duties, just to coax Evan's shy laugh. It worked. A crumb-flecked grin spread beneath the boy's nose, and he relaxed deeper into his chair, swinging his feet under the table. Lucas tried to remember the last time his son had laughed like that with someone new. He couldn't. "So," Lily said, buttering her own slice, "do you two come here often?" "First time," Lucas answered. "Thought we'd try something different." She raised a brow. "Different is good." Then her gaze flicked to Evan. "What's your favorite thing in the world right now?" "Besides dinosaurs, obviously." Evan considered. "Drawing and pancakes." "Excellent priorities." Lily's smile was quick, genuine. "Mine are night classes and, when I can afford it, double chocolate muffins." Lucas felt the jab of curiosity. "Night classes. I'm saving to finish my graphic design degree." She shrugged. "Bit by bit. One shift at a time." There was no resentment in her voice, only determination. Lucas felt a dull ache in his chest at the simplicity of her dream, and how startlingly far away it sounded for her. The waiter took their orders. Lily settled on the least expensive pasta. Lucas resisted the urge to insist she try the chef's special. Tonight was about honesty, not indulgence. When the waiter left, Evan leaned toward Lily, cupping a hand around his mouth as if sharing state secrets. "Dad can't cook." Lucas snorted. "That is confidential information, young man." Lily laughed. "That's okay. My specialty is overtoasted bread." Their small triangle of conversation wove into something easy, almost domestic. Lucas found himself telling a diluted version of late-night board meetings and burnt coffee. Lily countered with stories from the diner where she waitressed, the customer who ordered tomato soup with a side of ketchup, the elderly couple who tipped with quarters wrapped in ribbon. Evan listened, wide-eyed, and occasionally corrected Lily's dinosaur facts with encyclopedic certainty. She thanked him every time, calling him Professor Evan until he blushed beet red. Between courses, Lucas excused himself to the restroom, mostly to breathe. He splashed cool water on his face, meeting his own reflection. The plan had been simple: invite a stranger, watch how she treated Evan, reveal nothing until dessert, then decide whether to see her again or never. But already the edges of the test were blurring. She wasn't treating Evan kindly to impress Lucas. She hardly looked at him when she spoke to the boy. And she wasn't performing humility. It was simply who she was. He dried his hands, suddenly terrified of the moment Lily would learn the truth. Would she feel tricked? Would the warm light he'd seen in her eyes snap off? When he returned, he found Evan holding Lily's phone, giggling. She caught Lucas's questioning look. "He showed me a selfie with his dinosaur collection," she explained. "I may have promised to add a dragon sketch later." Lucas sat, feeling the world tilt. "You draw dragons?" "Poorly," she said, lifting her palms, "but he seems forgiving." Dessert arrived, 3 spoons, one shared plate of lemon tart because Lily insisted they didn't need more sugar this late. Evan took the first cautious bite, declared it acceptable, and pushed the plate toward the grown-ups like a tiny nobleman granting favor. Lily nearly choked laughing. Lucas's chest ached again, though now it felt suspiciously like happiness. Outside, the city had slipped toward night, windows glowing amber against the dark. Inside, time stretched in a gentle loop, talk, laughter, pauses filled with soft clinks of silverware. Lucas realized with a shock that he didn't want the evening to end. When the check arrived, Lily reached automatically for her purse. Lucas held up a hand. "Please, my treat." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Positive." "A beat." "I had a wonderful time." Evan bobbed his head in ferocious agreement. Lily's resistance melted. She thanked them both, then stood to retrieve her coat. Lucas followed, helping her into it. His fingers brushed the worn fabric at her shoulder, and a spark leapt between skin and wool, startling them both. Outside the restaurant doors, the air was crisp, scented with rain that hadn't quite fallen. Traffic hissed along the boulevard. Lucas turned to Lily, words tangling behind his teeth. "I'd like to see you again" felt too soon. "You changed something in me tonight" felt absurdly heavy. Before he found a middle ground, Evan piped up. "Dad, can we walk her to the subway? It's dark." Lily smiled gratefully. "That's very gentlemanly of you." Yes, Lucas said, his voice rough. Let's. They strolled 3 blocks, Lily cradling Evan's dinosaur drawing like treasure. At the station entrance, she paused beneath a pool of streetlight. Thank you for dinner, for letting me share your table. Lucas opened his mouth, closed it. Thank you for sitting with us. She laughed softly. Well, the hostess was quite insistent. Lucas blinked. The hostess? She said, your party's waiting by the window. I figured, why argue? She shrugged. I never did meet the guy my roommate set me up with. The truth hit him like cold rain. She still didn't know. She believed fate or a muddled hostess had led her to a single dad and his kid. And in a way, it had. I'm glad she did, he managed. She glanced down the steps. Train's coming. Then she looked up again, eyes bright. Maybe we'll run into each other here again? The tentative hope in her voice tugged at him. He nodded. I'd like that. Evan held out his drawing. For you, so you don't forget. Lily's breath caught. She knelt, hugging the paper to her chest. I'll keep it safe, Professor. The train thundered below. Lily straightened, offered Lucas her hand. He took it, surprised by how right it felt. Then she was gone, weaving through the turnstile with a final wave. Father and son stood on the sidewalk, the neon glow of a convenience store sign flickering overhead. Evan slipped his small hand into Lucas's. Dad, he said quietly, you don't have to test her anymore. Lucas stared at the dark mouth of the station, his pulse hammering. I think, Evan added, she already passed. A taxi splashed past, casting ripples of light across the wet pavement. Lucas squeezed his son's hand, a slow smile lifting the corners of his mouth. Soft, unguarded, entirely real for the first time in years. Lily's train rumbled north through the city, rocking her onto a worn vinyl seat. She pressed the drawing to her chest, heart fluttering harder than when the hostess had first beckoned her toward that window table. She unfolded the paper again, smoothing the creases with careful fingers. 3 stick figures, a tall one labeled Dad, a smaller one with a sailback dinosaur, and a girl in a blue dress labeled Miss L. Above them, Evan had drawn a yellow sun with an impossibly big smile. She grinned despite herself, then glanced at the other commuters. No one noticed. They were wrapped in headphones and screens. But Lily felt different, lighter, as if someone had slipped an extra breath of air into her lungs. Her phone buzzed. Roomy. Sue, did he show? Lily's thumb hovered. How could she explain that she'd never even met the intended guy, and yet somehow had the best night she could remember? She typed, long story, tell you everything when I get home. A dot raced across the screen. Then, oh, was it awful? It was wonderful, Lily sent before she could overthink it. But complicated. On the opposite end of the city, Lucas bundled Evan into the penthouse elevator. His son was half dozing against his side, clutching a toy pterodactyl the waiter had rescued from the floor. The mirrored walls reflected Lucas's own bemused expression. He hardly recognized the man who, 2 hours ago, had planned to interrogate a stranger over dessert. Now all he could think about was the way Lily had leaned in to listen whenever Evan spoke, the way she nodded thoughtfully at Lucas's bland description of finance, the way her laughter filled the spaces where awkwardness should have lived. He carried Evan to bed, tucking the boy beneath a comforter patterned with constellations. Evan blinked up at him. Will you see her again? Lucas brushed hair from his son's forehead. Would you like me to? Evan considered. She asked really good questions. His lids drooped. She didn't pretend. No, Lucas agreed quietly. She didn't. Evan slipped into sleep, a faint smile lingering. Lucas walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline glittered. Somewhere down there Lily's train would be rattling past the river, moonlight lacing the carriages with silver. He imagined her clutching Evan's drawing, smiling at strangers who'd never guess how fierce her kindness was. He reached for his phone, typed half a message, deleted it, tried again. In the end, he simply wrote, "Thank you for tonight," then paused, realizing he had no number. They hadn't exchanged contacts, hadn't even shared last names. He almost laughed. The great Lucas Hale, whose assistant could procure any VIP's details in minutes, had let the one person he actually wanted to call vanish into the dark with only a stick-figure portrait and an innocent promise that they might run into each other. He dropped onto the couch, rubbing a hand over his face. Tomorrow he'd ask his head of security to pull the restaurant's reservation log. No, that felt invasive. He could call the hostess, equally intrusive. He stared at the city until dawn began to pale the sky, torn between the urge to find her and the need to respect the perfect naturalness of how they'd met. Morning spilled through the curtains of Lily's apartment, a shoebox on the 4th floor of a building that smelled perpetually of laundry steam and old paint. Her roommate Kara sat cross-legged at the breakfast bar, nursing instant coffee. "So?" Kara prompted. Lily, knotting her apron for the diner shift, tried to keep her tone casual. "There was a mix-up. Hostess put me at the wrong table." "Oh no. Was he creepy?" Kara's eyes widened. "Actually, he was wonderful. And his little boy, Kara, I think I talked to the kid more than to him." Kara arched an eyebrow. "He brought a child to a blind date? That's the thing." Lily shrugged. "I don't think it was a date. They were just there. And I happened to sit down." Kara whistled. "Fate, or extremely poor restaurant management." Lily smiled, tucking Evan's drawing into the pocket of her coat. "I don't even know his last name. Isn't that absurd?" "Romantic," Kara corrected. "You'll see him again." Lily hoped so, though hope felt like a fragile soap bubble beside rent notices and tuition deadlines. Late that afternoon, Lucas strode into Greystone Tower's executive wing, his assistant Mason at his shoulder listing board meeting figures. Lucas nodded without hearing. As they reached his office, he stopped short. On the polished desk lay a thick envelope labeled Children's Art Initiative, a charity auction slated for next week. He'd agreed months ago to donate a piece from his late wife's private collection. The organizer's note peeked from the flap. "We'd be honored if you could attend in person." Lucas tapped the envelope, an idea unfurling. Public venue, family-friendly, free admission. Evan would enjoy it. And if he sent an open invite to the diner on Maple, he could ask Lily to join them without the artifice of a date, without secrets. He sat, composed a careful letter on personal stationery, addressed it to Lily Thompson, Maple Street Diner. He hesitated, then added a postscript in simpler handwriting. "Evan hopes you'll bring your dragon sketch." He sealed it, handed it to Mason. "Have this couriered within the hour. Confidentially." Mason glanced at the address, a modest neighborhood far from corporate gloss, but asked no questions. "Of course, sir." Lucas exhaled. It was a risk, revealing his full name on the letterhead, stepping closer to the truth. Yet something in Lily's straightforward gaze told him she deserved nothing less. The dinner rush at Maple Street Diner was already a slow churn of coffee refills and burger orders when Lily's manager slid a cream envelope onto the counter. "Special delivery, Thompson." She wiped her hands on a towel, frowning at the elegant script. Her breath caught at the bold header, Lucas Hale Industries. Beneath it, a short message in warm ink invited her and Professor Evan to an art exhibit Saturday morning. Heat flushed her cheeks. She knew that name, everyone did. Billion-dollar mergers, magazine covers, philanthropic gala photos. The man in the gray sweater had billions? Her pulse kicked. He hadn't lied exactly. He just omitted about 10 zeros. But he was honest in other ways, she reminded herself. The softness in his voice when he spoke to Evan, the earnest confusion when she'd worried about the bill. Still, a tremor of doubt slid under her ribs. Why conceal something so enormous? She folded the letter, sternly telling her heart to slow down. Saturday wasn't far. She would go. She would listen. And she would decide if the man behind the title and the boy behind the guarded smile were truly the same people she'd liked so effortlessly last night. Outside the diner window, dusk sprawled violet over the rooftops. Lily slipped the invitation into her bag, unaware that across town Lucas was pacing his study, rehearsing truths he no longer wanted to hide, and that Evan, sprawled on his bedroom rug, was adding a dragon to a fresh sheet of paper, labeling it in neat block letters, for Miss Lily. Saturday arrived on a breath of early spring, sky the color of skim milk, a shy warmth lingering beneath cool air. Lily stepped off the bus 3 blocks from the museum, clutching the strap of her canvas tote. Inside, protected by cardboard, was the promised dragon sketch. She'd stayed up half the night hunched over her tiny kitchen table, remembering how Evan's eyes had gone round at the mention of dragons. She'd wanted to get it right. Talons curved in mid-flight, scales catching imaginary light, her best work in years. The museum courtyard buzzed with families and bright banners. Children's art initiative, creativity that heals. Chalk drawings spread over stone pavers, a string quartet tuned softly near the entrance. Lily's nerves hopped in every direction as she spotted a tall figure just past the gate, shoulders unmistakable even beneath a casual navy pea coat. Lucas. Evan was perched on his father's arm like a small prince, waving the moment he saw her. Lily lifted a hand in return, unsure if her smile was steady enough to trust. Lucas set Evan on the ground, and the boy sprinted across the courtyard, coat flapping like a cape. "You came," he shouted, skidding to a stop. "You think I'd miss a chance to meet a real art critic?" She crouched, pulled the cardboard from her tote. "For you." Evan peeled back the cover. The dragon's wings unfurled in vibrant red pencil, its body twined protectively around a smaller dinosaur Lily'd added at the last minute. The boy's mouth rounded in awe. "This is epic." Lucas reached them, breath visible in the cool air. "Morning." The word held more warmth than the weather ever could. "That's incredible work." Lily rose, brushing imaginary lint from her coat. "Thank you. I haven't drawn seriously in a long time. Maybe you just needed the right commission." His grin was quiet, personal. Then he cleared his throat as though remembering the invisible gulf between them. "Shall we?" Inside, the museum atrium soared overhead, glass ceiling filtering soft daylight onto marble floors. Booths displayed children's paintings alongside donated professional pieces, laughter echoed between columns. Evan tugged Lily toward a craft table loaded with colored beads, leaving Lucas and Lily walking side by side in a silence that pulsed with half-spoken questions. He broke first. "I should have explained who I am." She kept her eyes on Evan. "You didn't owe me a resume over dinner." "Maybe not, but I owed you honesty." His voice dipped lower. "I was afraid if I told you the truth, you'd change the way you looked at me." She glanced up, meeting steady gray eyes. "And if I had?" He hesitated. "I suppose the test would have ended." A faint smile curved her lips, wry, wounded. "So it was a test." Lucas exhaled. "Not the way it sounds. It started as one, but you changed the rules the moment you sat down." He gestured toward his son. "Evan hasn't laughed like that in months." Lily's gaze softened. Evan was threading beads with fierce concentration, tongue poking from the corner of his mouth. "He's a wonderful kid. He's my whole world," Lucas said quietly. "And I make a lot of mistakes trying to protect that world." She folded her arms, mostly to keep them from trembling. "You forgot one thing." "What's that?" "That honesty is part of protection, too." She swallowed the tightness in her throat. "If you want someone real, you have to let them see the mess, the fear, all of it." Lucas looked as though the words stung and soothed him at once. "You're right." Across the gallery, a volunteer announced the beginning of the charity auction. Lucas offered his arm. "Walk with us? You can help Evan bid responsibly." The attempt at levity made Lily laugh despite herself. They joined the small crowd before a low stage where children's drawings were propped on easels next to professional canvases. Evan squeezed between them, dragon sketch clutched to his chest. The auctioneer warmed up the audience with gentle humor, then unveiled the first item, a watercolor by a 7-year-old burn patient, swirls of sunrise over a green hill. Evan's hand shot up impulsively and Lily caught his wrist. "Wait for the bids," she whispered. Lucas slipped a paddle into Evan's other hand. "We'll pick one you really love, Professor. Art should speak to you." Evan nodded, solemn as a curator. Lot by lot, the prices climbed, laughter and applause scattering like confetti. When a vibrant crayon landscape by a girl named Jada appeared, Evan's shoulders straightened. The scene showed a red-roof cottage under a sky ablaze with shooting stars. "That one," he breathed. Lucas lifted their paddle once, twice, until a final ding of the gavel proclaimed victory. Evan bounced on his heels, cheeks flushed with triumph. Lily found her chest tightening again, this time from a brightness that felt dangerously like joy. She hadn't expected this, the three of them sharing a moment woven from color, generosity, and the quicksilver wonder of a child's delight. After the auction, they retrieved the framed drawing. Evan insisted Lily sign the back beside his own exuberant signature. As she bent to write, Lucas murmured near her ear, "You're part of his happiness now." Whether this, he gestured between them, goes anywhere or not. The nearness of him, the sincerity, made her pulse flutter. She straightened slowly. "I don't plan on disappearing." Relief flickered in his eyes. "Neither do I." They wandered through sculpture halls and light installations, talking about nothing and everything, favorite cereals, worst first jobs, the peculiar satisfaction of crossing items off a list. Lucas confessed he used to dismantle watches as a child to see how the gears connected. Lily admitted she color-coded her sketch pencils like soldiers in tiny battalions. Hours later, sunlight slanted gold through the glass ceiling. Evan had gravitated to a corner where kids could build structures from oversized foam blocks. Lily and Lucas stood nearby, leaning against a wall patterned with refracted rainbows. "Thank you for inviting me," she said. "And for the honesty. Thank you for accepting." He paused. "Can I tempt you to dinner? Something casual, pizza, maybe?" Lily smiled, thinking of tomorrow's pre-dawn shift. But then she pictured Evan's grin, the shared bidding paddle, Lucas's tentative hope. "Pizza sounds perfect." Lucas's answering smile was slow, luminous. "There's a place across the park. Best thin crust in the city, according to my extremely discerning son." Evan, hearing his cue, bounded over. "Did someone say pizza?" Lucas ruffled the boy's hair. "Let's return Jada's masterpiece to the car and then investigate." As they stepped into the fading afternoon, Lily realized she'd never once wondered how much the painting had cost. She only felt the quiet thrill of being included in their small trilogy, no gold watch in sight, no headlines hovering overhead, just the scent of spring blossoms and the promise of molten cheese. And somewhere deep, where old fears clung like cobwebs, a fragile certainty began to take root. This might really be the start of something that couldn't be measured in dollars at all. Lucas wasn't exaggerating about the pizza place. A bell jingled above the door as they stepped inside, and the air smelled of basil and toasted dough. They sprawled in a booth by the window, Lily on one side, Evan and Lucas on the other, sharing a giant pie that arrived blistered and bubbling and perfect. Evan insisted they fold the slices New York style because that's how dinosaur experts did it. Lily obliged, cheddar grease spotting the tip of her nose, and Lucas laughed so hard he nearly choked on oregano. The evening slid by on a current of easy conversation and small confessions. Lily learned Lucas secretly hated oysters, and Lucas learned Lily could whistle every verse of an old 90s pop song. Evan fell asleep against his father's shoulder before they finished the last slice, pizza crust clutched like a white flag in his fist. Lucas carried him to the curb, murmuring thanks when Lily flagged down a taxi. A pause stretched between them while the cab idled, its dome light flickering amber across their faces. Lily thought he might lean in, Lucas thought she might step back. Instead, they simply shared a soft, uncertain smile, the kind people give each other when they both realize they aren't ready for the night to be over and yet have no idea how to keep it going. Evan stirred, muttering about Spinosaurus teeth, and the spell broke. Lucas climbed in after his son, lowered the window, and said, "Can I call you tomorrow?" "I'd like that," Lily answered, cheeks warming as the taxi pulled away. Monday morning found her back at Maple Street Diner, a coffee pot in one hand and a fistful of order slips in the other. The museum afternoon felt almost borrowed from someone else's life, the memory of Lucas's gentle baritone muffled by clattering plates and the bark of rush-hour customers. Just after the lunch wave, her manager appeared with another envelope thinner than the first. Inside lay a single page, Hale Industries letterhead again, but the message briefer, an invitation to discuss a part-time design contract for the company's new children's initiative. No formalities, no HR address, just Lucas's handwritten line at the bottom, "I thought your talent deserved room to breathe." No strings, Lily? Just a chance. She laughed under her breath, half amazement, half disbelief, and slipped the note into her apron. Kara shrieked when Lily showed her that night. "A real design job, Lils. You have to say yes." Lily's mind raced with tuition fees, rent worries, art supplies she could finally afford. She texted Lucas a shy acceptance, received a cheering emoji in return, and spent the next 2 days designing mock-ups between diner shifts, playful logos, bright color palettes, mascots shaped like paintbrush rockets. On Thursday, she rode an elevator 30 floors up Greystone Tower, knees knocking. Mason, Lucas's calm assistant, greeted her and guided her through glass-walled corridors to a sunlit studio newly fitted with drafting tables and brand-new hardware. "Your sandbox," he said. "Mr. Hale will join you after his board call." She ran her fingers over the smooth desk, marveling at the trust implied in empty shelves waiting for books, a bulletin board waiting for sketches. A junior designer popped in to welcome her, gushing about the children's program. They chatted until a cluster of marketing staff drifted past the doorway, voices low but excited. "Did you see the boss's gala RSVP list? His mystery girlfriend, apparently. I heard she's a waitress. Wild, right? Testing her with the kid, classic Lucas Hale move. Bet she's in over her head." Heat flared in Lily's cheeks. She stepped back, unseen. Mystery girlfriend. Testing her with the kid. The words buzzed like hornets. So Lucas's private doubt had been public gossip all along. How many people knew she'd been examined rather than simply met? And how many expected her to fail now that the rules had changed? Lucas arrived 10 minutes later, bright-eyed, apology ready for keeping her waiting. He didn't notice her rigid posture until she turned, arms folded. "Is something wrong?" She lifted her chin. "How many of your employees know about the test, Lucas?" He froze. "Lily, because it seems to be common hallway conversation." His eyes shuddered with regret, but she plowed on. "I'm not a science project. You don't get to study me under glass and decide if I'm authentic enough for your life." "I never." "You did." Her voice cracked. "Maybe you stopped testing me, but everyone else still thinks I'm a pop quiz you engineered." He stepped closer, hands out as if to soothe. "Give me time. I can fix this. I'll shut down the gossip. You can't fix the fact it started." She pressed a thumbnail to her palm, hard enough to sting. "Lucas, I like you. I care about Evan. But I won't step into a world that keeps scorecards on my sincerity." The hurt in his gaze almost undid her, but she steadied herself. I need space. She left the letterhead studio behind, elevator mirrors reflecting her trembling resolve. Outside, sunshine stabbed too bright against glass towers, and she walked until her feet ached, until the buzz of traffic smoothed into white noise behind her heartbeat. Evan noticed first. On Friday night, he laid out 3 places at the dining table, then frowned at the empty third chair. Lucas's explanations came tangled. Lily was busy, Lily needed rest, Lily would call soon. Evan listened, wide-eyed, then marched to his room and produced a folded sheet of paper. "Can you mail this to her?" he asked. "You have her address, right?" Lucas nodded, throat thick. After his son fell asleep, Lucas opened the note. Block letters marched across the page beneath a triumphant red dragon. "Dear Miss Lily, you are really real. Don't let adult stuff make you sad. Come back soon. Love, Professor Evan." Lucas stared at the childish certainty until his eyes blurred. He thought of his late wife's postcard again, "Find someone who loves you beyond the balances," and understood that Lily had been right. Protection demanded honesty, not walls disguised as tests. He grabbed his keys and slipped out before dawn, steering toward Maple Street just as the city stretched awake. The diner's neon sign flickered on, bathing the sidewalk in pink glow. Through the glass he saw Lily arranging napkin dispensers, face drawn but determined. He paused on the threshold, suddenly nervous. The bell chimed. She glanced up, surprise sliding into caution. He approached the counter slowly, no suit jacket, no entourage, just a man clutching a boy's letter like a lifeline. "Lily," he began, voice rasped by sleeplessness. "Your shift ends at 3, right? Could you give me 10 minutes after?" She looked at him for a long, measuring moment, then nodded once. 10 minutes. Time crawled. Customers came and went. Lucas lingered in a back booth nursing coffee that tasted of punishment. At 3:05, Lily untied her apron and joined him, arms folded but eyes less stormy. He slid Evan's letter across the table. "He wanted you to have this." She unfolded it, lips trembling at the dragon. The silence between them buzzed with old fears and new possibilities. "I'm sorry," Lucas said, not rehearsed now, but raw. "Not for being wealthy. For believing wealth made honesty optional. I thought I could control how people saw me, how they saw us. I was wrong." Tears shone but did not fall. She traced the dragon's wing. "I was frightened I'd never know when a room looked at me as Lily or as a social experiment. You'll always be Lily to me," he whispered. "The woman who talked to my son first. The woman who reminded me laughter matters more than numbers." He exhaled. "But you can walk away and I'll accept it. I only needed you to hear me say that face to face." She ran a thumb over Evan's uneven block letters, thinking of the boy's shy grin, how easily the 3 of them had fit around a single slice of tart. At last she lifted her gaze. "I don't want to walk away," she admitted softly. "I just want no more tests. No more secrets." "Deal," he breathed, relief rippling through him. "No more secrets." A small, wry smile curved her mouth. "In that case, full disclosure, your son bribed me with dinosaur facts." Lucas laughed, pure, unguarded, and she joined him, the tension easing like a knot pulled loose. Outside, early blossoms drifted from a street-side pear tree, petals swirling in the mild wind. Lucas held the door for her, stepping into the bright afternoon together. No scorecards, no disguises, just a man, a woman, and a future that would ask more honesty than either had ever offered before, but which both were suddenly brave enough to try. And when Evan barreled out of school hours later, dragon drawing waving like a flag, Lily knelt to his height and announced she could now name 15 species of theropod. The boy hooped, Lucas's laughter rang across the sidewalk, and passers-by glimpsed only a father, a child, and the woman who saw them exactly as they were and loved them all the more for it.